Hey everyone, if you retire without a well-defined budget, I think the chances of your retirement not going as planned are much higher than for someone who has their income needs dialed in. Now, I talk about this a lot because I really believe that the retirement budget is the single most important piece of any retirement income plan. It's what everything revolves around. And today, I'm going to walk you through a brand new, but still completely free tool that I've built to help you figure this out for your own spending goals. So, at some point when you retire, you generally switch from saving money to spending that money that you've saved. And if you've already been through this transition, you can probably attest to this. But for those who are getting ready to go through this, let me warn you, it can create some anxiety. This is not something that should be attempted without a clearly defined retirement income plan. And at the very center of that retirement income plan has to be your budget for retirement. Without knowing what you need on a monthly basis after taxes, there's really no good way to figure out how to get that retirement income in an optimal manner. So, before you make any decisions on Social Security, on pensions, the right sequence to withdraw from your retirement savings, Roth conversions, and just about anything else, really, the monthly net income goal has to be determined. I think this is so important that I spent a few $1,000s of my own money with my software developer to create this brand new retirement budget calculator because I want everyone to have access to this. Now, I'm going to link this up below, but I do think it'd be helpful for me to walk you through how this newest version works. So when you go to the page, and we'll just scroll past the instructions here, you'll want to enter your date of birth, your date of retirement. That may feel intrusive to you and a bit personal. So if you don't want to enter your exact date of birth, you can always just put in a date that's close, like a different day of the month, and it'll have the same effect. But you do want to put these dates in because one of the big new features of this calculator is being able to put in the beginning and ending dates for expenses, and that just won't work unless you put some dates in here. And as you scroll down, you can see that there are multiple categories of expenses like home-related, utilities, and communication services. But within each of these, there are multiple subcategories for those that want to get really specific. So when you click the Add Expense button, for example, here in the home-related category, you'll see the subcategory box. And now, if you just want to lump everything into one big number, you can just select Total Home-Related Expenses, or you can choose one of the more detailed expenses below. So for show and tell purposes, we'll just use the subcategory here of lawn and garden. And under that is a label if you need it. So for example, if you have different people doing different lawn and garden things. Now under that, you'll want to put in the frequency of the expense. And it's going to auto default to monthly, but we know a lot of expenses happen on a quarterly or annual basis. Now, under the frequency is one of the big new features of this calculator that allows you to choose between must spend and like to spend. So must spend are those mandatory costs, right? What do you have to get by? Like to spend includes some of the lifestyle extras, and typically like to spend should be equal or higher than your must spend amount. And if you don't put anything in there, the calculator is going to automatically fill that in with the dollar value that you put in the like to spend. So for example, the way you would use this, if you know that, let's say lawn care is $400 per month and you don't have any equipment, so that's an amount that you must spend, but they've told you that for an extra $300 per month, they'll change out your annuals, put pumpkins out in the fall and Christmas lights in late November. You may want to see if there's room in your budget, so you'd put $400 in the must spend and $700 in the like to spend. And then below that is one of the other new features of this calculator, and that's the start and end dates for the expenses. There are so many expenses in retirement that are time-bound, and whether that's a mortgage payment, travel expenses, a car payment, or a host of other potential expenses that will only last for a certain period, you can now specify the length of this expense. And by default, this will be set to age 95, but that can easily be changed here in this table. So for example, in our lawn care section, let's say that you know that you're planning to move to a patio home or some kind of continuing care community when you're 75, and lawn maintenance is part of the package. Well, you wouldn't want this expense to continue all the way out until age 95 or whatever age you've selected as the end of plan. Instead, you just want to select the age here when that expense should stop. And once you have all that entered in, you just hit the save button and it'll be added as an expense. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that at the bottom in the hovering bar, it's starting to calculate your average monthly budget in the must spend and like to spend categories. Now, that number that's being shown here is not averaging out the entirety of your retirement. It's just expenses that you've put in on a monthly basis. So if there's an expense that's going to cut off at 75, it's still going to show it here, but this is just to give you kind of a run and tally of where you are. But there is a way to get really specific about how your expenses will change over time, and that's down here at the bottom. Now, the first piece to see how expenses change over time is to use an inflation rate. So for example, if I change this to 3% and then scroll down to the table, you can see that there are 4 columns of expenses. There's the must spend and like to spend in today's dollars, and then must spend and like to spend in future dollars based on the rate of inflation that I chose. And then as you go down through this table, you can see how inflation is going to change things. Now, one of the things that you'll also notice is that all these expenses are being solved for a monthly expense. Now, we could have used the annual expense, but since most people are used to working on a monthly basis, we just left this to monthly. And then if you'd like to download this table, either for your own records or use it as part of another spreadsheet, that's easy to do using one of these options. So once you've used this, I'd really like to hear your feedback. I want this tool to be useful and help people make more informed decisions about retirement. So if you have suggestions for improvement, or if you really found it valuable, please let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching.